My name is Joan. I've been a member of this association for its entire existence as of June 1974. There are two others left who were beginning members. The founder lives in California. The first staffing person lives in Florida. So I'm the only one that's left actually on the floor. Originally, the exchanges started in like 1860s, almost at the time of Lincoln. And they were originally for rich women who did not have money of their own. And they needed somewhere to sell their wares because that's what they did in those days. They literally had a slot in a door that they handed their items through. So nobody should know who they were. They had to be anonymous, and they got paid the same way through the slot into the door.
The Women's Exchange is organized in this whole spirit of people in a community deciding to come together to organize something that meant something to them, that was important to the community. My name is Frank Lipo, and I'm the Executive Director of the Historical Society of Oak Park and River Forest. We're located here in Pleasant Home on the second and third floors here in the Park District-owned facility here in Mills Park. We've been in this building since 1970, and we're organized just a couple years before that. And part of our job is to gather the community's history. So people have given us photographs, documents, materials, artifacts, and all kinds of things that help people understand individual people or like organizations like the Women's Exchange. It started from a Park District of Oak Park program where some women were learning how to quilt, which is sort of a very sort of time-tested, ancient, sort of creative way for women to use some of their skills related to something very practical like making clothing and using it in a more artistic direction. And some of these women who got together for this quilt making class said, this is fun, we should do more of this sort of thing. And they kind of stayed together as an organization and organized formally the Oak Park Women's Exchange, a place where women could sell some of their handicrafts, things they had made with their own hands. The idea that women were making some money off of their skills. These particular women, even though by the early 70s, women were becoming more and more common in the workforce, and fields that were previously closed to them or less open to them were opening up. Women in Oak Park banded together and decided to do something that would help them in terms of individual sales of their handicraft, but also would give them a chance to stay together socially and kind of have a community building exercise among themselves.
My name is Deanne Alexander, and I've been a member of the Oak Park Women's Exchange for the last 15 years. I've served as a board member for publicity, co-chair for display, and on the aesthetics committee during that time. One of the reasons I actually joined the Oak Park Women's Exchange was I had been living in Oak Park for, probably 10 years and probably drove by the store every day, and one day decided to stop in and check it out. And I love the store, and it became one of my favorite shopping places. So as a result, a few years later, when I just started to make soap, I thought it would be the perfect venue for me. And so I approached them. And it was interesting because most places that I approached, they took a high cut, or I was going to have to raise my prices to a price that I thought would be unreasonable for somebody to buy a bar soap. And the beauty of the Women's Exchange was their terms for being a member of the co-op were basically you would volunteer to work there 8 hours, and you also had to pay a fee, and at the time it was less than $10 a month, which is a gold mine because there isn't any place anywhere that has those terms for an artist to sell their work.
My name is Diane Simonanis. I've been a member of the Oak Park Women's Exchange since, I believe, 2000. I have held a few board positions, including special orders, and currently I'm part of the Finance Committee. I started out as a stenciler. I stenciled clothing and other items, and then I decided that I needed to branch out a little bit, so now I am doing jewelry. We have a craft fair every year, which is one of our big money makers. We have bake sales every year, and we started having more and more of them because we are truly wonderful bakers. We have had wine and chocolate parties to raise funds. We have had spring flings. We have had the girls' night out where we invite people to come in. We have a doll tea party where little kids from the neighborhood come in and they do crafts, and they have little sweets and cookies and things, and then they win all kinds of raffle prizes. One of the beautiful things about our shop is that we're also willing to give back to other organizations which might have helped us along the way too, which they do too, I have to say. We also have Project Linus here in the shop, a national organization which makes blankets for children. And it actually is, it's a lot of work, all those blankets, but it is one of those organizations that, because we are the drop-off point for people who make blankets to donate to sick children, to shelters, they will come into the shop, drop off their blankets, and then shop, and perhaps come back to our craft fair, or they will come back and show an interest in the shop. And because we are the only Project Linus chapter in the area, that is very important for us. Project Linus would probably not exist in this area if it was not for the shop.
Many of the women's exchanges over the country have closed, and there are just a few left, and it's really a beautiful concept to be able to offer this to artisans and crafters. We have survived times when the economy has been bad, and we pulled through, and people continue to come back and support us, and oftentimes are our best friends. We've been here for 40 years, and unfortunately, a lot of people tend to walk by the store, and when they finally do decide to come in, they are always totally amazed at what we have to offer, and most of the time become some of our best customers. I think that people don't realize what we're about. I think people often come in, and that's the beauty of having your things in the shop all year round versus being a craft show where you may actually be there 2 days on a weekend, and then somebody might see something and think, oh, that's great or that's wonderful, and they'll never be able to purchase it because they won't know where it came from or didn't get the person's card. Oftentimes people walk by and say, oh, that's really nice, my daughter's birthday is in a month and a half, I'm going to come back and get it. And chances are when they do come back, they will find it, or at least they'll find something that they like it equally, if not more. So that's a great way that we're able to expose ourselves.
All of the members work hours, all of the members are encouraged to fill board positions or other committees within the organization to help keep the organization running. We don't have a janitor, we have a person who does operations. We don't have an accountant, that's a finance committee. So it's one of those situations where everybody's cooperation is really and truly needed and appreciated. We are here for 40 years, which in and of itself is truly amazing, that any business can stay afloat for 40 years. We have had a variety of events celebrating our past members. People have come and gone over the years. We have octogenarians and high school kids who are members, and every year we have a celebratory dinner where we recount things that have happened in the past, and old members come back.
In 2006, Maria Pappas, Cook County Treasurer, awarded the Oak Park Women's Exchange with an award of excellence for women entrepreneurship. We were very honored. We went down to her office, we accepted it. There are very few stores like ours that have survived, and I think that was a great honor for us personally and our co-op as a whole. It is a venue unlike any other venue around. And over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, places have popped up offering artists to come in and sell their work, and it never, ever, ever comes even anywhere close to the Women Exchange and what we offer artists in our shop. And we really are such a jewel in the community. The artists' work here is so phenomenal, and I'm always amazed at the incredible artwork and the incredible pieces that our artists do. They're creative, they work hard. Oftentimes they may not get top dollar that you would expect for a piece of artwork, but oftentimes it's also the case that they love doing what they love, and they're very happy that they're able to have a venue where they can sell it and not have to deal with the accounting end or the advertising end or the display end, because that is something we actually provide our members with, which is a great, great positive. I can't imagine having to run a business and put that kind of cost and time and effort into something where we can do it here. So that's really a positive in a big way, and I think that's what draws a lot of members to join the Women's Exchange.
One of the things that's really fun about the Women's Exchange, I was mentioning earlier that a lot of local organizations that people belong to, they might have meetings or they might have a lecture or a public program of some sort. But I think the Women's Exchange has this dual sort of function in the community that, yes, women who are involved have sort of their social network and are sort of coming together as women who are interested in these sort of handmade items, you know, this very creative sort of way of making things that unfortunately is often lost when things are sort of mass produced. So I think that's sort of great for those women who are involved over time. But I think there's this other side of the Women's Exchange as sort of being an anchor in the South Oak Park Avenue business district there by the Eisenhower. I know in my own family, my wife, my daughters, our 3 daughters, have shopped there. You know, oh, that's such a great homemade or handmade thing. And my wife in particular does not make things like that. So I think she sort of says, no, I don't make this, but the Women's Exchange has a good selection of things like that. So I think aside from the history of it or thinking professionally, working here in the community, I think there's a lot of people who live in the community that just know, oh, that place that sells those great handmade, homemade items down there on Oak Park Avenue, and maybe don't understand the whole history or the fact that it's been around in the community for 40 years. So I think there's a great heritage, but I think there's a very practical side to the Women's Exchange.
If you've never been to the Oak Park Women's Exchange, you need to stop by. I think you would totally agree that we are one of the best kept secrets of Oak Park. And I'd say even go as far as say the whole Chicagoland area. Come and visit us, you'll love it.